Yes, Facebook, I am ready to go live. Good evening, everyone. It's 8:05 on a Monday evening. A little bit late, but hey, better late than never. My name is Caroline Flanagan. For those of you who don't know me, I am a coach, a certified coach, a speaker. I'm the author of Be the First, and I am the host of the Caroline Flanagan podcast. And I come to you live every Monday, usually at around 6:30 to 7 o'clock. Tonight it's 8 o'clock, but what are you going to do? At least you can catch this on the replay if you missed me earlier. So today's broadcast, first of all, the quality of the video and of the sound is hopefully a lot better this week than it was last week. You see, last week I was away surfing in Portugal. It was amazing, but it meant that my live was a little bit patchy because I was very much reliant on the Wi-Fi. But this week, I'm coming to you from my usual place, in my office, in my home, self-isolating like a very good girl, and ready to talk about this week's topic, which is how to create results with your thoughts. Now, inspiration for this topic has come from two places. First of all, my core signature imposter program. Creating results with your thoughts is a key part of the program. It's a key part of what I teach you in terms of being able to move from a position of feeling powerless, feeling like insufficient, you're not good enough, you're not deserving enough, or just feeling that the circumstances around you are too challenging. What my program does is move you from that place to a place where you are able to create results for yourself, notwithstanding what's going on around you. So that's a key part of the program, is helping you create results with your thoughts. And then the more recent bit of inspiration for this topic came from my experience last week surfing. So as I said, I was away, lucky enough to escape to Portugal, and I took my teenage boys, Dylan and Noah, away surfing for the week. Now, a couple of things you need to know about me. I am terrified of the ocean. I find it intimidating, scary, and in particular, the Atlantic Ocean, absolutely freezing. Honestly, when we go on holiday, even if the water is warm, I can quite happily go a whole week without getting into the sea because I'm just not used to it. I didn't grow up around the sea. We never went on holiday to the beach. So it's really always remained this kind of unknown foreign thing to me. It's only when my young children started launching themselves at waves and throwing themselves into the ocean and putting themselves in danger that I reluctantly but compulsively, as a mother and being very maternal, felt I had to follow them into the ocean just to make sure they were safe. I don't know who would have been saving who if anything had gone wrong. The point is, the ocean is not my natural habitat. So the idea of going away for a week to learn to surf and have all that kind of what's it called? Tumultuousness is the word I want to say. All that kind of being thrown around and crashed around by the waves, and have that washing machine effect that people talk about. Have my hair all messed up. It still hasn't quite recovered. Is literally, honestly, between you and me, anyone else who's listening, not my idea of fun. But as you know, I am a certified coach. I'm someone who likes to challenge herself. I like to step out of my comfort zone, and I find room, potential for growth in anything that I do. I don't like being massively afraid of something and avoiding it. So the idea of taking my teenage boys surfing was a big challenge. What's that got to do, I hear you ask, with creating results with your thoughts? Well, here I am, just over a week later, and I absolutely love surfing. I loved the ocean. It was freezing cold. I had a wetsuit, but I could still feel how cold it was. I managed to get up on the board quite a few times, but I was just battered about, chewed up, spat out by the ocean, which was very tumultuous, very unpredictable during the week that was last week. If you're a surfer, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're not, suffice to say, this was me out of my comfort zone, doing something I hadn't dared to do before, but showing up, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment, showing up with everything that I am, with who I am. So with my courage, with my enthusiasm, with a real commitment to learning, a willingness to listen, a resourcefulness when I was being like thrown around in the ocean, using whatever resources I could to get myself up again, and a resilience to like the many, many fails that I had off this board. So it's an incredible experience. Now, why is that? How did I get from being someone who's terrified of the ocean, would rather not go in, doesn't like getting their hair wet, doesn't like being cold, to somebody who's sitting here tonight, 10 past 8 on a Monday night, and feeling nostalgic for the waves, for that salty taste in my mouth, that smell of the ocean, the intimidating like swell of the waves coming up behind me, and then the excitement, the adrenaline getting up on the board. Just those few seconds before I go crashing underwater. How did such a transformation take place? The ocean didn't change. It's still intimidating, powerful, and most definitely absolutely freezing. So, what changed wasn't the circumstances around me, the environment around me. What changed was me. I'm the one that changed. And more specifically, it was my thought that changed. Which brings me, of course, to tonight's topic: how to create results with your thoughts. You see, what I did last week, and nobody would have been aware of this or witnessed it, but what I actually did was I created that incredible result of enjoying myself in the ocean surfing. I created it with my thoughts, specifically with a thought shift. I shifted my thoughts deliberately, consciously. I made a choice. Instead of thinking, I can't do this, I'm not a surfer, I don't like the ocean, this is out of my comfort zone, and all of those negative thoughts that really would keep me out of ever trying anything like that, I shifted to, I can work this out. I can figure this out. I could do this. I'm going to give it a try. So simple, isn't it? Seems like not a big deal at all, from I can't do this to I can work this out. But you'd be wrong to think that. It is the biggest, most transformative thought shift that you can imagine. And it brings me to the power of thoughts and why you can use your thoughts to create results. So I created the result of having had an amazing experience surfing and being in a situation now where I miss it and I can't wait to do it again. I created that not by having a brilliant teacher, not by having a particularly warm wetsuit or just being in a good mood, but by consciously shifting my thought from one which didn't serve me when it came to being in the water, a negative one, to one that totally served and inspired and uplifted and motivated me. From I can't do this to I can work this out. Now, notice I didn't shift my thought to something outrageous and that I would really struggle to believe in. I didn't shift my thought to I'm a master, like Olympic, if there is such a thing, surfer. That's how little I know about surfing. I don't even know if it's an Olympic sport or not. Not sure. If you know this, let me know. But I didn't shift to something like out of this world that would be really hard for me to get behind. I just shifted it to something that really showed my faith and my belief in myself to be able to work things out. And this is a key, it is the key message I want to leave you with today. I want to give you today, which is that you have the power to completely change your experience and to create the results you want just by identifying the current thought that you have, which may or may not be serving you. It may be holding you back in whatever it is you're trying to achieve. If you can identify that and then shift that thinking, shift that thought to a more powerful thought, a more positive thought, a thought that puts you into the energy and the power of who you are, then you can create the same level of transformation in your life too. And I talk about surfing today just because it's most current in my mind, but this is how I'm creating results in my life, in my career all the time. Simple thought shift. So today, what I want to do over the next sort of 10, 15 minutes or so is explain to you, well, how does that happen? How do you create such transformative results purely by changing the way you think? How can you take the same situation and experience it completely different? Here's an example for you. If you're in the UK right now, you'll know that the weather is pretty diabolical. I managed to miss the heat wave. I can't believe it. And now it's been so wet the last few days. Now, there are two ways to approach a really wet and rainy day. One, which we tend to in the UK, most people I meet, we tend towards, is to see the grey skies, to see that it's overcast, to see how wet it is. And if you're anything like my husband, for example, I think, oh, how miserable. The weather's terrible. When's it going to be sunny again? Oh, this weather is awful. Simple thing, right? But I want you to ask you to think about the effect that that thought, the weather is awful, oh no, it's raining again, has just on your day. If you go into the day with a negative thought like that, that thought is going to affect how you show up to everything. The smallest irritation is just going to pile on top of that negative thought and bug you more. In fact, you're more likely to notice irritations if your mindset is in that negative space. You're having, and starting with a negative thought, you attract more negative thoughts. You spot more negative situations to comment on. It influences your whole day. Now, shift your thought to something more positive. We're staying with the weather example because it's such a beautiful and an easy one to explain this concept. Shift from, oh, it's raining again, to, oh my God, it's raining today. Brilliant. That means I've got a chance to just snuggle in at home. My garden, the plants are going to get watered. And actually, do you know what? It's quite nice to have that smell in the air. I love those sounds of the rain. You know, when you're inside and you see the rain on the window pane coming down and you can hear it outside. There's something so comforting and warming about being in the inside and feeling lucky to be safe and warm in your home while outside it's blustery and wet. Now go into a day like that where you're feeling enchanted by the rain, you're observing it, you're maybe even grateful for it, for what it's doing for your garden, or for how it's making you feel just kind of like cocooned at home. What a different day. What a different way to then approach whatever comes up in your day. You're showing up in that positive thought mindset. So you're not going to notice those minor irritations so much. When you see them, they're not going to bother you so much. Because in your head, if you've decided to at the beginning of your day, you can choose for it to be a great day, not just in spite of the rain, but because of it. Now, it seems simple. It seemed perhaps even far-fetched to go, oh, just to say, oh, wake up and decide the rain's bad, or wake up and decide I'm going to have a good day when it's raining. I am telling you, this is the most important lesson that you could actually learn about the power of your brain to change your experiences. I've talked about the weather. I've talked about my love discovery of surfing after changing my thoughts. Let's apply it to something perhaps a bit more relevant to you. Let's say you're struggling with your boss right now. And in your mind, your boss is someone who's controlling. He's someone, or she is someone who is very nitpicky, who gives you a hard time. Perhaps you think that doesn't like you. You will go into your day, every single day, seeing only that. Feeling trapped, feeling powerless with your nitpicky, controlling boss, and you'll feel unable to create the results you want, right? To live and work the way you want to live. You'll feel constrained, you'll feel restricted, you'll be unhappy. Now, take that same boss who behaves in the same way, who treats you the same way, but you've shifted your thought from they are controlling, they are too much, I can't achieve what I want to achieve, I'll never get ahead under them. Shift it to simply, I have a boss. I have a boss who is who has an interesting way of working. It's not how I would choose to do things, but that's how my boss chooses to do things. So I need an interesting way of working with them. See that? The circumstances haven't changed. It's the same boss, but your thought about that boss has shifted from one that is negative to one that serves you. And do you know why it serves you? Because for you to go into the day and work with that boss from a perspective of, oh, how interesting. That's not how I would do it, but fine, that's how my boss is going to do it. Completely different experience for you. Suddenly, you have got so much more power and ownership over your experience, how you work with them, and the opportunity to spot those times, those places, those ways in which perhaps your boss isn't necessarily controlling, or ways that you can actually have the opportunity to perhaps influence the way they work, to build rapport, to build a relationship with that boss that's going to completely change your experience of work. Creating results with your thoughts. The circumstances don't change, the conditions aren't perfect, but just by shifting your thoughts from something that keeps you trapped, makes you feel stuck and powerless, to something that creates opportunity, possibility, a different way of working, creativity, changes everything. So I've given you a few examples of that. I've talked about the weather, I've talked about my surfing, I mentioned the example of a boss. And if none of those examples apply to you, then I'm sure there is something right now. Have a think about it right now. What is it in your work or in your life right now that's just not working for you, where you just feel a bit stuck? Your job, if you want to create a better result, if you want to create the result where you feel unstuck or where you achieve a certain goal, how you do it is not through waiting for the circumstances around you to change. It's not through waiting for the exact right conditions to be perfect. It's through identifying what are your thoughts about this situation right now? Are they keeping you stuck? Is there a way you can shift your thoughts that creates possibility, opportunity? That's where you need to go. That's how you create results. So I wanted to just share with you in terms of working out how you do it. So how practically do you change a thought that is not serving you into a thought that's going to create positive results for you? And there's 3 steps that I want to share with you this evening. The first one is you have to be able to identify what the thought is. So before you use your thoughts to create the results, you have to be able to spot the thought. Now, that might seem like a really easy or obvious question. Think about it for a minute. It's not so obvious or easy when you do it in practice. Take the example of the controlling boss. Now, were you able to spot, or are you able to spot the thought in that sentence? I have a controlling boss. In order to identify the thought, what you have to do is strip away all the emotions, strip away any opinion, and just take the objective fact. In that sentence, the objective fact, the circumstance we call it in the coaching model, is I have a boss. That's the only thing you can say with absolute certainty without anybody necessarily disagreeing. Right? You have a boss, it's completely neutral. The fact that you think your boss is controlling is the thought. So the first step to creating results is you have to be able to separate the facts of a situation from the thoughts you are having about a situation. So the example I want to share with you today is one that, so this is a thought I am working on at the moment. So this is real life for me. I'm going through, I'm using what I teach you to do, I'm using exactly to help myself create results. And the result I want to create right now is I have a certain target for my business this year. So in terms of and how I measure my business goals, my business success and progress is through the number of coaching clients that I manage to sign and the revenue that that produces. Now, there's been a slight kind of focusing of my business in the last month or so, where the imposter program that I've created, I want to target it directly and work directly with lawyers. Now, if you're not a lawyer, don't panic. This is still so useful and helpful for you. I don't want to scare you off and think that none of this is applicable. It's absolutely applicable. But in terms of who my message is to and who I want to target in over the next sort of 6 months of this year, it's lawyers who have some sense of imposter syndrome, whether it's because they feel like imposters because of how they feel internally, because of their self-doubt, or because they feel like imposters because of their external environment. I want to help those lawyers to own their imposter syndrome, turn it into a strength. So what has this got to do with me creating? What result do I want to create? That's the result I want to create. But what are the thoughts I'm having about that might be serving me? And what are the thoughts I need to have in order to create that result? So what I do is work through two things. One is the unintentional model. So that's looking at where I am already. So when I think about serving lawyers who have imposter syndrome, who want to turn that into a strength and use that to progress their career, what comes up for me is the lawyers I know who are either they have imposter syndrome, but they don't want anyone to know, or they feel they don't have imposter syndrome at all, even though some of the words they use and the language they have and the way they behave in their law firm suggests that they might. So I start to worry, oh, maybe there aren't enough lawyers out there who want to work with me. That's thought number one. The second thought I have, which is very potentially limiting, is I would like the lawyers I work with, I'd like them to pay for some of their own coaching. Now, if you are someone who would easily and willingly invest in your own coaching and development, this might sound strange to you, but a lot of my lawyer clients come to me through a referral by their employer. And their employer will say to them, oh, we're going to pay for you to have coaching. Now, the result I want to create is I want to create people who are willing to pay for their coaching themselves. I want people to be invested, financially invested, so that they are all in on doing the work and creating the result. Because you all know what happens when something's free, right? You're kind of like take it or leave it. You're maybe half into it, half not. It seems really optional. I want the committed client. I want the lawyer who believes in this work, who's ready to invest in themselves to see and help themselves realize their potential. But my brain is going, oh, you're never going to get a lawyer to pay for their own coaching when the firm would otherwise pay. And maybe there aren't enough lawyers out there anyway. The problem is, when I think like that, guess how I show up? I show up as hesitant, maybe timid, maybe not quite believing, feeling perhaps like lacking the energy and enthusiasm to convince really anyone to work with me. If all I'm thinking is, well, nobody's really going to want to work with me on that basis. Yeah, a bit like with the weather. If I'm just thinking it's dreary, it's rainy, it's a horrible day, guess what? My energy around everything I do that day is going to be really negative, really low. I'm not going to attract anything positive in my day if that's where my energy is. And so it would be with the situation I'm in at the moment if I felt really negative about working with my lawyer clients. So what do? I shift my thoughts. If I want to create a different result, if I want to create a result where there are literally lawyers queuing up to work with me on their imposter syndrome and realize their potential and progress their career, I have to shift my thoughts to create that result. And the way I do that is I start to shift from the negative, no lawyers will want to work with me, to the positive, all the lawyers will be queuing up to work with me. I've taken the complete opposite stance. Now, some of you will be thinking, hang on a minute, you can't just go from thinking one thing, completely flip it on the other side and think the opposite. And my answer to you is yes, you can. Now, you may struggle to believe it at first. You may think, oh, this is just fake and I'm just making it up. A client of mine recently was just like, I can't just make up these feelings or make up these thoughts. I'm like, yes, you can. And that's exactly what you need to do. Because all thoughts really are made up. Your negative thought is just the result of a habit. It's not the truth. It's just a thought you're choosing to have. It's no more valid than the positive thought that you could choose that is going to create positive results. So here's what I'm doing right now in my work to use my thoughts to create results with my thoughts. And it's what I want to invite you to do in relation to your next challenge, your next goal. Have a look at what your current thinking is and spot where you've got thoughts about a neutral situation, a fact, right? Any thought you have that might be even vaguely negative, or it might not be negative, anything that's just kind of meh or neutral. And what I want you to do is replace it with a thought that's strong, bold, confident, courageous, committed, all of those really strong emotions. And every time you think about the goal you're trying to achieve, the results that you want to create, every time you do a piece of work that is supposed to support those results, I want you to show up from that positive statement, from that positive thought, the new thought that you are using to create results. Yeah. So your brain will want to slip back into negativity. It's not going to work. Either the weather's too rainy, or my boss is too controlling, or it's not going to work. There's not enough people. Every time your brain wants to go there, notice that. Say, how interesting. And then invite yourself to adopt and practice the positive thought. So that's how I'm going to be creating results this year with my thoughts. And I'm going to check in with you at the end of this year, and I'm going to come back to you about the kind of results that I've managed to create. Because I'm not interested in wallowing in the negative thoughts of maybe people aren't out there who want to, lawyers, maybe there aren't enough lawyers out there who want to work with me, or the negative thought of, oh, lawyers wouldn't want to pay for their own coaching. No, 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 no. I'm all over the thought that there are lawyers out there who are absolutely excited to work with me, who know that can see the value that I can bring to them through my coaching, my imposter program, and who are willing and recognize that it's a worthwhile investment to invest in themselves and their own progression. I'm so excited about that. And can you see how it makes a difference to how I talk about the work I do, how I'm going to be with those clients in terms of helping them to achieve their results? What a difference it can make. How amazingly you can create results just using your thoughts. So spot the thought that might be holding you back, keeping you stuck, staying in the negative, and just switch it. Shift your thoughts from the I can't do this to I can work this out, and watch the results unfold. I'm Caroline Flanagan. Thank you so much for listening to my session today. It's, as I said, about creating results with your thoughts. If you are interested in learning more about me, about my imposter program, if you're a lawyer, then head on over to carolineflanagan.com/contact and get in touch. Book a consultation call with me about how I can help you to own your imposter syndrome, create results, and fulfill your potential. Either way, if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this idea that you can actually create results just by using your thoughts. I would love to hear back from you, hear your comments. That's it. I wish you a beautiful evening. I'll speak to you again soon. Take care.